So I just wanted to talk about identity and personas in this one, and this is a really messy subject, and I have a lot of vague thoughts about it, so excuse me if I get a bit meandering. I mean, identity has always been a really ethereal, unexplainable thing. Like, if someone asks, hey, who are you? Like, what are you really supposed to answer? Your name and everything that it entails, I suppose. I think the thing that really kind of made me uh, open my mind about this is watching the last two episodes of Neon Genesis Evangelion because, of course, and Shinji, the main character, is basically like, what do people see when they see me? And that kind of thought has been pervading my mind ever since. Like, literally, on three occasions, people have tried to define what my personality is, and get a they can't even find a single word that would describe what I'm like. I'm just, I don't know, boring or too many things at once. I'm either nothing or everything. And I get the feeling I interact with people too little. So I'm more nothing to them. And I myself, I think of myself as everything because, of course, I know myself the most. And I know what I'm interested in. And it's like, a lot of things. They usually like compare me to someone else, like, oh, I can see that you have kind of an aura about you. I can say characteristics about you. You're sociable, you're interested in this thing, or you're a laid back person. But um, in those instances where people try to understand what my character is about, they're just lost, that they can't even explain a single word about me. Well, actually, other than like shy and anxious, and doesn't like to talk much. Though, when I show my true self, then they're like confused. I mean, I don't know. I would call myself like a creative individual. Um, One who has a bunch of random thoughts going through their head. And yeah, I'm trying to explain myself and I can't even think of words either. Philosophical. That's an adjective that I could describe myself maybe. But I don't know, all those kind of seem pretentious, so maybe I also am a pretentious person. But anyways, on the topic of like trying to find your own identity, I talked with a person, my friend from Taiwan who moved to Germany when he was 11 years old. And he mentioned he also had some identity issues about which country he came from. And it basically just made me realize people who move, who migrate, especially when they're at a young age, they have the most identity problems. I keep mentioning Trixie the Golden Witch, aka Digibro, who moved houses a lot when she was young, and she turned out to be like a completely disassociative, weird, autistic person. And that's also basically me too, because I immigrated to England when I was like 4 years old. Um, and I think that like that time that I immigrated kind of really instilled what kind of a person I am when I became older. Um, it cursed me basically. People who live like in only one country for their whole lives, they think it's boring and they don't get to see much of the world. At least that's what I'm assuming. Um, but it's a blessing in disguise because at least you are in an environment where everyone around you, it's the same culture. But when you move somewhere else halfway through your formative years, you start questioning yourself. You take in your new environment and it messes with your old uh, personality and identity, and it's just a mess. So besides trying to figure out your own identity, I also kind of wanted to talk about personas. They're kind of related. And I read a comment a YouTuber made. It doesn't really matter where or who, but they were basically just confused about why people have personas. Why are you fake? Why are you pretending to be someone you aren't? And he's confused because, like, why not be your true self? Like, it's just extra unneeded effort, you know? And the way that I would respond to that is because my true self is something that's kind of hideous and ugly. And not only that, but it's hard for me to be my true self around other people. And usually, when it comes to creating relationships with people, especially close ones, like I really had to adapt to how my relationship with my roommate became, and now my close friend. I had to figure out what he liked to talk about, the scope of what he was talking about, because sometimes I dig too deep and talk about things that he doesn't even care about. So whenever I have thoughts that are like, oh, he won't care about this, I have to stop, talking and talk about something else, And that's kind of how a persona becomes, basically. I'm a pretty weird person, so I have to become a different person, and like we meet together halfway, basically, because we wouldn't be able to interact normally or really at all with each other if we were our true selves, I suppose. The guy would either be disgusted by my actions or just plain not talk to me. Like the things that I mention are like pretty awkward, and he's like, "Yeah, why are you talking about this? Shut up," you know? And I have to do this with like pretty much every person that I know and meet. I have to adapt with them too, but I mean, most people are like social people, and they talk about the same things. So certain personas that I have for certain people are actually just very, they're similar to each other. So it's mostly just I have a deeper inner part of myself, and then I become this social person who is different and doesn't talk about certain things, and is generally more friendly. So now let's talk about breaking personas. So my relationship with my roommate, I have basically found a comfortable persona to be in. And I have been showing a bit more and more of my true self. And like obviously if I showed my true self from the very beginning, he would be weirded out as fuck. But now that we have known each other for a long time and I can show him bits and pieces of it, he can understand me more and more. And I think that is basically the recipe for what a good, healthy relationship is. Not to mention visual novels, but I can't stop talking about that. That's part of my personality at this point. I watched a video, some analysis about White Album 2, and the thesis of, or the conclusion of that video was basically just people love each other when they stop lying, when they are their true selves, um, when they have nothing to hide. This web of lies is stupid. Just get rid of it, and when you're truthful to each other, that's when you can find love. And yeah, that's what it means by like breaking personas. And particularly in, okay, so I moved from Indonesia to the Netherlands recently, and seeing the different culture from there to here, it is very different. And this is related to personas. And I talked with another person who moved from Asia to the Netherlands, and he basically said people in Asia um, are never like completely truthful about themselves. They have an image, they have a persona, but he didn't use those words specifically. And they just seem so fake. And they want to present themselves as best as possible and not be, and maybe, only be truthful to themselves or their close loved ones. But it's hard to get into a true relationship, especially like quickly. I guess it's always kind of slow. But in the Netherlands, it's completely different. I don't know if you heard too many stereotypes about Dutch people, but they're very honest and straightforward. If someone does not like you, they will just straight up say so. And that's not something that I've heard about Asian people. And that's why the guy that I was talking to hates where he was from, sort of, and prefers the culture of the Netherlands because it's a lot more natural. Uh, Naturally, there are going to be a lot of differences between people, and it's best to confront them head on instead of being hidden about it and keep these problems inside of people and fester and stuff. So yeah, those are my thoughts on identity and personas. I hope you found it interesting at least. Consume everything and goodbye.